Tonight on 24, the Islamic Republic's future in Washington talks between Netanyahu and Trump. Reports emerging of the Israeli Prime Minister's efforts to insist on missile and nuclear restrictions in Iran. Tehran's emphasis on missile capabilities during February 11th government rally. Islamic Republic officials say this issue is not negotiable. And Tehran and Moscow's complaint against the American company SpaceX at the United Nations. The Islamic Republic and Russia say this company's satellite internet services violate international laws.
From Iran International, it's 24 with Fardad Farahzad. Breaking news.
Hello and good evening to Iran International viewers in Iran and around the world. We have breaking news. Minutes ago, Israel's Channel 14 reported that the country's assessments show the likelihood of a U.S. agreement with Iran is very low. This news comes as the U.S. president has been hosting the Israeli Prime Minister at the White House for the past hour. According to reports, Netanyahu's main goal for his trip to Washington is to insist on restrictions on Tehran's missile program and to stop support for regional proxy groups in negotiations with the Islamic Republic. Before meeting Donald Trump, Netanyahu also met the U.S. Secretary of State. Netanyahu's visit to Washington comes as Ali Larijani, after trips to Qatar and Oman, has said that negotiations with the U.S. are ongoing and, according to him, regional governments are trying to bring these talks to a conclusion. Our correspondent Babak Saki, who came to Washington from Israel with the Israeli Prime Minister's press team, is with us from the White House, as is Samira Karai from the State Department. Babak, I'll start with you. It still seems their meeting is ongoing. We haven't heard anything from the Israeli and U.S. leaders. What's expected from these meetings?
Fardad, just as you observed, the meeting has certainly dragged on. It began promptly at 11 a.m., and even now at 1:30 p.m., the private face-to-face, four-eyes consultation between Trump and Netanyahu is still continuing without any sign of ending. But what we can say right now, initially, as you mentioned, not only Channel 14, but other Israeli media outlets are also reporting that from the Israeli side, the possibility of reaching an agreement right now is very low, even close to zero. The disagreements are significant. The Islamic Republic is unwilling to back down, making the possibility of reaching an agreement almost zero. On the other hand, Israel's Channel 12's senior correspondent Barak Ravid says that Trump asked Netanyahu about the possibility of negotiations failing, sought his opinion, and asked him what would happen and how Netanyahu assesses the situation. This official says that the United States and Israel are deciding today whether, if an attack occurs, it will be carried out alone or if it will be coordinated with and involve Israel. Meanwhile, Fardad, Israel has already provided the United States with a new, high-quality target bank situated inside Iran. Consequently, very high-level intelligence coordination and strategic dialogue are actively underway between Israel and the United States. Israeli Army Chief of Staff Eyal Zamir visited Washington last week to discuss the matter with American officials. Concurrently, Barak Ravid reports that Israel and the United States remain locked in strategic assessments regarding the precise scale of firepower necessary should military action occur. The allies are debating whether an American offensive requires utilizing full force capabilities. Israel maintains a firm stance on the strategic endgame. If a widespread attack is indeed authorized, it must not merely degrade the enemy but result in the complete overthrow of the current regime, accepting absolutely no other outcome. Currently, though we don't know what decisions will be made behind closed doors, I can say one thing, and that's what a reporter, colleagues who are here next to me, say Israel is ready to speak in the Hebrew word taklis. تخلص به فارسی میشه رک و بدون هیچ رودرواسی و همه مسائل را روی میز بذاره و نتانیاهو با پاسخ کامل از کاخ سفید بیرون بره. That's why both Netanyahu and Donald Trump, who are both very eager for media appearances, haven't released even the slightest footage or image of themselves today. We didn't see them enter the White House together, nor enter the Oval Office. And according to the Israelis, they are still talking techless about Iran's issues, putting everything on the table. February 11th. On the day of the 79 Revolution's victory, the White House suggests decisions of the same magnitude could be made in Israel.
Samira, while this shadow of war is getting darker over Iran every moment, these diplomatic exchanges also seem to have reached their peak. From Doha to Muscat and now in Washington, where Benjamin Netanyahu is speaking with the U.S. president, and before that he spoke with the Secretary of State, give us a picture of all these diplomatic negotiations in these final moments.
That's right. These are diplomatic movements in the Middle East. Mr. Larijani's trip yesterday to Muscat and today to Doha, the Qatari emir's morning call with Mr. Trump, and Mr. Netanyahu's visit to the United States. All of these are indeed diplomatic movements. The Islamic Republic arranged Larijani's trip to coincide with Mr. Netanyahu's visit. Some say that this trip was arranged by the Islamic Republic on that date, and the discussion about that letter somewhat questions this argument, suggesting that if Oman wanted to give that letter to Ali Larijani yesterday, then they had set a date of the trip. This trip is proceeding in parallel with developments in Washington, yet Larijani stated just hours ago that they have not received any clear proposal, meaning a clear and explicit set of suggestions from the United States. Informed sources reported yesterday that Larijani received a set of proposals today during his trip to Doha, Qatar. He has given the Islamic Republic's answer, and probably the phone call between the Emir of Qatar and Mr. Trump happened after that, given that the Emir of Qatar, Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, who is close to Mr. Trump, had met with Ali Larijani. Anyway, developments continue there. Here, Mr. Netanyahu has been a constant guest. Rarely has a head of state visited so frequently this year. The breaking news indicates that the probability of the agreement coming to fruition is very low. This aligns with previous Israeli assessments stating that the chances of success are slim. If Mr. Trump alone wanted to advance the nuclear issue with the Islamic Republic, which he is doing, even on that very topic, the parties can't get close to each other. Today, marking the significant date of the 22nd of Bahman, important discussions regarding national strategy have occurred. Officials from the Islamic Republic firmly reiterated their stance on preserving the sovereign right to nuclear enrichment. Additionally, Ali Shamkhani addressed the critical missile program during the events of this commemorative day. The Islamic Republic is not backing down from its missile issue. The missile issue is not something they want to negotiate with others. It's about their deterrence and their defense. We are seeing that in these fundamental pillars, whether it's one pillar, which is nuclear, or three pillars, which are nuclear, proxies, and missiles, the United States has an issue with the Islamic Republic on every single one. Regarding proxies, Mr. Larijani met yesterday in Muscat with Abd Salam, spokesperson for Ansar Allah, the Yemeni Houthis. And today he met with a spokesperson and leaders of Hamas in Doha, Qatar. Qatar. If we read the media outlets that monitor the Middle East, both of these meetings are being interpreted as indicating that ahead of U.S. and Israeli military maneuvers, the Islamic Republic is exchanging messages with regional proxies, seemingly coordinating them with each other and itself.
Thank you both, Samira at the U.S. State Department and Babak at the White House. Babak is on standby there as soon as the Israeli and American leaders' meeting concludes. If any news leaks or if they happen to hold a press conference, we'll go back to the White House. Quick note, in the past few minutes, Israeli newspaper Yediot Ahronoth reported that in the meeting currently underway at the White House between Mr. Netanyahu and Donald Trump, other figures are also present, including Pete, the U.S. Secretary of War, Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, as well as Jared Kushner and Steve Bikoff. This is the news being published by the Israeli newspaper Yedioth. It appears several other U.S. cabinet figures are present at this meeting. National security expert Sean Sami joins us from our Washington studio. Mr. Sami, details from today's meeting remain scarce, but in your opinion, will Netanyahu return from Washington with a full hand?
With my respectful greetings to you, esteemed Mr. Farzad, and to the brave people of Iran. Look, Mr. Netanyahu came to Washington for some clarifications, and he is currently expressing them in his conversation with Mr. Trump as to why the United States should not fall into the trap of the Islamic Republic's lies and projection. While the Islamic Republic claims readiness to negotiate, Larijani plays games by meeting Houthi and Hamas representatives in Qatar. In other words, they actually want to tell America that we don't attach any importance to you. And it's in this vein that I think Mr. Netanyahu and Mr. Trump are aligned in believing that the Islamic Republic is not reformable. Mr. Netanyahu believes that the sooner the Islamic Republic regime is gone, security will return to the Middle East region, and that region can have more peace. Mr. Trump faces significant pressure from right-wing isolationists in his cabinet and from those who believe strongly that the Islamic Republic's business needs to be finished once and for all. So I believe that with the clarifications Netanyahu has planned and with that goal he has entered the White House, especially regarding how much the Islamic Republic has been able to acquire and produce long-range missiles in the aftermath of the 12-day war, and concerning how destructive a role the Islamic Republic's proxies can play, he will convince Trump, and in my opinion, he will bring with him a strong hand, which is a clear plan for confronting the Islamic Republic.
But at the same time, on the Islamic Republic side, we see their diplomatic efforts reaching a peak. From Arachi, it has now reached other figures who are looking to negotiate with the American parties. How likely do you think all these negotiations happening in Muscat, in Qatar, and then the Qatari Emir's call with the American president right after his meeting with, why did his name just slip my mind, the Secretary of the Supreme National Security Council, how much do you think these will lead to them reaching somewhere? Larijani, Ali Larijani.
Look, I really don't believe that they will actually reach a conclusion. Why? Let's backtrack. Right now, what does the United States want from the Islamic Republic? The nuclear program to stop, the missile program to be limited, the elimination of support for proxy forces, and as far as the evidence suggests, a recognition of Israel. Recognizing Israel is completely beyond Ali Khamenei's capability. Regarding the nuclear issue, Arachi himself, if one can believe that he is also a proper and reliable individual and a spokesperson for the Islamic Republic government, says that zero enrichment is absolutely ineffective for us. It's not even debatable. Larijani says, however, that we haven't received the expected give and takes and programs yet when they lack ethical understanding and don't realize the world will hold them accountable for what they say in front of cameras. In my opinion, they cannot get anywhere with America because U.S. requests are impossible for the Islamic Republic's current leadership to grant. In reality, the regime is just buying time to prevent a global consensus on confronting the crimes against humanity committed on the 18th and 19th of last day. It wants to stop that, and on the other hand, to create some doubt and suspicion among European countries. Amidst all this, the Qataris pursue their own interests. They don't want a democratic neighbor because a weak Islamic Republic is much more important to them. Because when under sanctions, Iran makes more use of shared gas resources. Turkey also has no interest. These investments made by Iranians in Turkey and the economic benefits currently derived from the presence of Iranian capital and liquidity in Turkey disappear. They also have no interest in letting that go. They are trying excessively to convince America to adopt a weak approach, but evidence suggests Netanyahu holds the upper hand in these discussions.
Thank you, Shahrukh Sami, national security expert from our studio in Washington. Coinciding with the Israeli Prime Minister's visit to Washington, Senator John Kennedy says the White House is currently seeking negotiations with Tehran, but Donald Trump will soon become disillusioned with Tehran because, according to him, the Islamic Republic only understands the language of power and pressure. John Kennedy told Marzia Husseini the U.S. shouldn't rush war and must rely on intelligence assessments.
We're going through a process. As the president fulfills his promise, we cannot act without review. We must listen to national security advisors, agencies, and intelligence sources, including highly capable Israeli intelligence. The president will use these. We can't simply enter the situation by bombing or sending thousands of American troops, because such an action might complicate things further. We need to proceed with a calculated and strategic approach, similar to the approach taken in Venezuela. I don't mean an exact repetition of that pattern, but it's clear that this issue is being considered at the highest level of decision-making and is a priority for the president.
Marzia Husseini herself has also joined us from Congress. Senator Kennedy is a Republican senator. When he makes such statements in conversation with you, it's clear that on one hand, they're concerned about the situation of the Islamic Republic and don't have much hope in diplomatic bargaining, but they also have concerns about a potential conflict and a full-blown war.
Farhad, the atmosphere in Congress today is very different from 3 or 4 weeks ago. It's not like before anymore, where only a handful of senators like Lindsey Graham or Ted Cruz would talk about a military attack on Iran. Now, senators in the U.S. Congress, regardless of party, are really seeing how they can support the people inside Iran. According to this interview I had with Senator Kennedy, Republicans seem to be more in favor of war, or at least they don't have a problem with it. And Democrats are also trying their own approaches. For example, today, Democratic senators issued an appeal, and all of them signed it to prevent the transfer or deportation of Iranians from the U.S. Meaning, in their own way, Democrats who are against war still have the issue of supporting the people of Iran on their agenda. But in the interview I had with Senator Kennedy, my question to him was why Trump, who promised the people he'd support the people in Iran, is negotiating with the Islamic Republic. And he emphasized, saying, it's not as easy as us just going and bombing Iran. We need to listen and see what Mossad and our own intelligence agencies say. He emphasized meeting Trump yesterday, and according to Senator Kennedy, he said, I'm certain that Trump's most important agenda item at his time is supporting the people inside Iran. Next to me was also the Al Jazeera reporter. We know it's the same media outlet that interviewed Mr. Larijani, and Mr. Larijani emphatically stated that the missile program is not on the agenda. He also asked Mr. Kennedy specifically what the status of the negotiations is. Let's see his answer and then come back.
My opinion about the Middle East is that today, this region is safer than at any other time in the past 25 years because Israel, with the support of the United States, has severely weakened Hamas and Hezbollah and has also severely hit Iran. The job isn't done yet. The president wants to negotiate with Iran, which is logical, but I think he will be disappointed by them. The only thing Iran understands is power and pressure. They are not willing to stop supporting Hamas and Hezbollah. They are not willing to give up their missile program and abandon their nuclear program. I wish they would. They still massacre their own people, and the people of Iran are good people. I don't want war, but history repeats itself. Iran's leadership excels at wasting time. They procrastinate, buy time, and never deliver on their promises.
One of the points that was made in this interview was that Farhad emphasized, saying, "I'm not saying we should do exactly what we did in Venezuela. This is what they say publicly, but they seem to be very interested in such an option because media affiliated with the U.S. Congress, like The Hill, for example, have published analyses evaluating that the best and most serious scenario right now is that they can specifically target the leader of the Islamic Republic through Venezuela-like attacks, and they say the discussion isn't at all that this means a failure of diplomacy. This means militarizing diplomacy, and it's the only thing that can be done against the Islamic Republic in this current time frame." And another point that The Hill, the media outlet affiliated with Congress, has published is that the Pentagon has issued a warning to U.S. commercial ships in the region, which seems to be an unprecedented warning, telling them to stay as far as possible from the waters of the Islamic Republic, and has set out a course of action for them. If, in fact, Islamic Republic boats approach them, they should not offer any military resistance, which, according to U.S. congressional media, actually means the peak of potential tension and military readiness with the Islamic Republic at this time. And they emphasize that the taboo of targeting a country's leader has been broken after the Venezuela incident, and this is the best scenario being proposed here in the U.S. Congress by senators.
Thank you, Marzieh Hosseini, my colleague from U.S. Congress. Representatives from Russia and Iran at the United Nations complaining about SpaceX say that Starlink satellite internet, a product of the company, has blurred the line between commercial and military technology, and this violates international regulations. According to the Islamic Republic, Starlink antennas in the country have violated Iran's national sovereignty and should be considered an unauthorized military use of a civilian technology. Our reporter, Mariam Rahmati, is with us from the UN headquarters in New York. Mariam, tell us more about this complaint that the Russian Federation and the Islamic Republic have raised.
Well, Farhad, it's very clear that the Islamic Republic of Iran is extremely angry that the people of Iran currently have access to Starlink, even if it's in a limited way, and can maintain their connection with the outside world so they can leak information about the government's widespread repression. Regarding this matter, at Monday's meeting of the UN Committee on the Peaceful Uses of Outer Space, representatives from Russia and the Islamic Republic claimed that the activities of Starlink and also SpaceX are not consistent with international law. We know that in recent years, and especially during these recent protests, about 50,000 Starlink terminals have unofficially entered Iran, and protesters are using these Starlinks to bypass filtering and internet blackouts so they can, maintain their connection with the outside world. Now, Tehran has, in this meeting, called the sending of these Starlinks to Iran, or the Iranian people's access to Starlink, a violation of its national sovereignty. The Islamic Republic says that a private company has provided service inside Iranian territory without government permission, and it considers this a violation of its national sovereignty. From Tehran's perspective, tomorrow, this is interference in the country's internal affairs, years. But on the other hand, it said that fundamentally, if the internet hadn't been widely cut off in Iran, people wouldn't have needed to turn to Starlink. Human rights activists emphasize that access to the internet today is a part of fundamental human rights and is essential for access to information, freedom of expression, and also free communication. The main disagreement centers on whether this action is foreign interference or a response to restricting a fundamental right that Iranian citizens should also be able to access. It is particularly striking that both the Islamic Republic and Russia chose to insert these grievances into a venue where such dialogue is fundamentally misplaced. They effectively politicized a committee designed exclusively for scientific cooperation. This specific body is mandated to address dry technical matters such as orbital slots, the mitigation of hazardous space debris, and global satellite registration protocols. It was never intended to serve as a platform for debating complex national security concerns, internal domestic unrest, or sensitive disputes regarding territorial sovereignty. And Iran and Russia have brought the Starlink issue to this level, meaning they want to turn it from a technology discussion into an international law case, even though this won't be possible. Anyway, representatives from Russia and the Islamic Republic also strongly criticized Elon Musk in this meeting because of SpaceX, as citizens can use Starlink to access the outside world.
Thank you to my colleague Mariam Rahmati from the UN headquarters in New York. Right now, as we speak, reporters at the White House are reporting, including Barak Ravid, an Axios reporter, that the meeting between the U.S. President and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu just concluded moments ago. One of our eyes is on the White House. Give a press conference. We will broadcast live with researcher Shahram Foldi has joined us. Mr. Holdi, this is the 7th time that Israeli and American leaders are meeting, and at the peak of a situation where the shadow of war looms over the region, how likely do you think it really is that Mr. Netanyahu will be able to? Did they successfully convince Trump to authorize a direct military confrontation?
I send my greetings to you, dear Mr. Farzad, and to the brave people of Iran. I think even if he can't persuade Trump, Netanyahu will succeed in at least. Putting President Trump in a state of, well, decisive hesitation. And what do I mean by this decisive hesitation? Sometimes a person who's hesitant just sits on the fence and does nothing. Or if they do something, it's only passively and defensively. The action Mr. Netanyahu is taking compared to the last time he spoke with President Trump, which was just 4 days before Israel attacked the Islamic Republic, was a 40-minute phone call. And of course, there wasn't an opportunity for him to come to Washington, D.C. This time, with the arrival of the aircraft carrier Abraham Lincoln, and considering that we don't exactly know where the aircraft carrier group H.W. Bush is right now, exactly, in my estimation, and considering the fact that Mr. Netanyahu actually decided to move his scheduled meeting with President Trump forward by an entire week, I think we are approaching a D-Day operation against the Islamic Republic by the United States or Israel. Netanyahu, in my opinion, wants to change that hesitation from passive hesitation to a decisive hesitation for action against the Islamic Republic.
Mr. Holdi, just now, U.S. President Donald J. Trump has published a text on his social media platform, Truth Social, after his meeting with the Israeli Prime Minister. It's a bit long, I apologize, I'll read the text. He said, "My meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and several of his representatives just concluded. It was a very good meeting, and the extraordinary relationship between the two countries continues. No definitive conclusions were reached. I will ask you about this, except that I emphasize that negotiations with Iran should continue to determine whether an agreement can be reached or not." If such an agreement is possible, I informed the Prime Minister that this would be our preferred option. If it's not possible, then we'll have to see what the outcome will be. Last time, Iran decided it was in its interest not to make a deal, and faced the midnight hammer, which didn't turn out well for them. I hope this time they act more rationally and responsibly. We also discussed significant progress in Gaza and the region generally. Peace truly prevails in the Middle East. And thank you, Mr. President of the United States. How do you see his remarks, Mr. Haldi? It doesn't seem harsh or military-oriented right now.
In my opinion, when Donald Trump speaks with hesitation or uses ambiguous language in public, it is actually much more dangerous due to the resulting lack of clarity. I certainly recall very clearly that just before Christmas, President Trump came out and spoke very, calmly and peacefully in that holiday message he delivered to the people of the United States, and he simply didn't mention Venezuela at all in that specific way. And exactly in the first week of January, an operation was carried out that led to the arrest of Maduro by United States forces. It shouldn't be forgotten that discussions about character don't change much, especially once people pass 50 years old. If Donald Trump can achieve the maximum benefit with the minimum cost, both for himself, as he's a politician with a business mindset, and for the United States of America simultaneously, naturally, that's his primary option. His character has been shaped in this way. But this shouldn't be forgotten. He knows that Israel has never waited for the United States of America to address existential threats against Israel. Otherwise, today, Israel's Ministry of Defense wouldn't be releasing news about the readiness of the David Sling shield and that it has been tested for operations. Right at the same time as Mr. Netanyahu's meeting with Trump, if the Israelis hadn't gone to President Trump with this message, if we learn that this agreement you're making addresses our concerns, we won't wait for you to defend Israel's existential interests.
Thank you, Shahram Haldi, researcher of Middle East history and international relations. Speaking at the 11th February ceremony in Iran, Ali Shamkhani, Secretary of the Supreme National Security Council, declared that the nation's missile capabilities are not negotiable. He further warned that any military action against Iran would trigger a war with regional and global consequences. This is while the images and news released from this rally have garnered significant reactions on social media, and according to many observers, the Islamic Republic's efforts to display political participation and its loyalty expression project have failed. Kurdistan Democratic Party of Iran spokesperson Khalid Azizi joins us. Mr. Azizi, the shadow of war is very prominent over Iran right now. The leaders of Israel and the United States are meeting at the White House. First and foremost, I'd like to ask for your assessment. How high do you think the probability of confrontation really is right now, and is it possible?
First, regarding the Iran issues and negotiations in Washington. And generally, the outside world is very preoccupied with issues related to Iran as a result of the people's struggles inside Iran on one hand, and on the other hand, the killings that the Islamic Republic has brought about inside Iran. I predict that in the current phase, both Washington and international opinion in global security equations are mostly trying to convince the Islamic Republic through dialogue and negotiation to at least back down regarding its nuclear program. But if we also pay attention to this preparation and, this U.S. military deployment in the region, naturally, if they don't reach a conclusion in the first part of the issue, there will certainly be various options from the United States of America concerning Iran. Meaning, this deployment should be regarded as a serious action by the U.S. and Israel against the Islamic Republic.
How likely do you think an agreement is? And is there, well, any agreement that could convince someone like you?
International opinion regarding Iran has always defined Iran's issues by the nuclear program. Unfortunately, over the past few years, the Islamic Republic has also used its nuclear program as a bargaining chip. That's why we now see that for America, the main issue is how to reach an agreement regarding the nuclear program. We, the people of Iran, Kurdistan, and the KDP seek a clear outcome from negotiations and U.S. military deployment, the elimination of the Islamic Republic regime. Our pivotal issues are establishing democracy in Iran and ensuring the internal struggles of the Iranian people are supported. Perhaps the U.S. government will again reach an agreement with the Islamic Republic in these negotiations regarding the nuclear program, giving the Islamic Republic another chance, as they say. But the people's struggles, the people's rights, are in their rightful place, and I am certain that the Islamic Republic, with the ideology it has in the region, with the policies that Mr. Khamenei has adopted, will never retreat from its plans and ambitions. As long as the Islamic Republic is alive and in power in Tehran, these issues will certainly continue.
You referred to the popular protests. Amidst these unprecedented killings and demonstrations, perhaps unique in the Islamic Republic's history, many lives were lost. This is why many are now truly considering foreign intervention. Do you believe there is any capacity left for proactive work without foreign intervention? Currently, everyone seems to be reacting and waiting to see what America does before taking the next step.
After the Iranian Revolution, especially over the past few years, we have repeatedly seen U.S. presidents, from Democrats to Republicans, always say that we support the democratic struggles of the Iranian people, and partially, at times, there have also been threats against the Islamic Republic. At least during the 12-day war, America attacked Iran. I personally disagree that we should attribute all issues related to inside Iran to international actions or U.S. or Israeli military actions, because these attacks that have occurred so far from the U.S. or from Israel have mostly been about pursuing their military objectives concerning the Islamic Republic's atomic program and missile program. And usually, if the plan remains the same in the future, the Islamic Republic will stay in its place. The main issue in Iran is for the international community, especially the U.S. and Israeli governments, to come to the realization that as long as the Islamic Republic regime holds power, the region will not experience security and peace. And usually, the leaders of the Islamic Republic have shown various tactics over the past few years, at least in the diplomatic and negotiation spheres. They are always looking to waste time and buy time, and from this perspective, they try to keep the global community preoccupied, until they finally convince America or others that they will at least back down regarding their nuclear program.
Mr. Azizi, your party and other Kurdish parties in Iranian Kurdistan are uniquely characterized by organizational and party work, which is rare elsewhere in Iran. How much do you think this is generalizable to other parts of Iran? What lessons can be learned from Kurdish parties for other parts of Iran? And how open are you and other Kurdish parties to cooperating with all of Iran?
Mr. Farahzad, it's generalizable. Why? We've repeatedly seen these struggles inside Iran against the Islamic Republic regime over the past few years. More recently, during the Jinnah movement in Kurdistan, we saw this coordination and cooperation among various groups and different viewpoints from all corners of Iran with Kurdistan. During the recent movement, too, among those people who were in the streets and chanting, there were clearly different viewpoints, conflicting opinions, and various distinct slogans observed there. But unfortunately, we still don't have this possibility in Iran, in Iranian society, for people to organize themselves civilly, to organize themselves. And aside from this, in the past, to a large extent, there have been various factions and ideological rivalries among Iranian parties against the Islamic Republic regime, and this has also prevented us from being able to create an alternative system, an alternative to the Islamic Republic so far. Fortunately, the extensive coordination among the Iranian people against the regime during recent protests makes us optimistic. I believe that in the future, this capacity for organization, discipline, and party formation will continue to expand. Here, on behalf of the Kurdistan Democratic Party of Iran, I emphasize again the struggles of the Iranian people are very extensive. The international community defends the Iranian people legally. It's the absence of a suitable alternative that still, unfortunately, makes the international community proceed cautiously. And if we succeed in creating at least an alternative to the Islamic Republic in the not-too-distant future, I am sure that in future, more chances and more serious opportunities against the Islamic Republic regime will emerge for the people of Iran. Why? The Islamic Republic regime is destined to fall. If it's going to go soon, it depends on how much we organize ourselves, how much we become an alternative for the international system. If this regime is going to go later, the struggles will continue again, and I hope we can use the experiences we've gained from these struggles so far in future plans.
The reason I asked how much it can be generalized, Mr. Azizi, is that one of them is that many parties, while Iranian Kurdistan maintains strong local backing, this support often doesn't extend nationwide. Instead, others may view the region with skepticism, sometimes even leveling accusations of separatism. That's why I'm asking, from a public relations perspective, how much do you think you and other Kurdistan parties can reassure the rest of Iranians across the country that you are also part of that same larger process?
We have been part of this process since the beginning. Amidst our struggles against the Islamic Republic regime, Kurdistan, the Kurdistan Democratic Party, and Dr. Abdulrahman Qassemlu personally have been among those actively helping to address this issue. In the past, the Democratic Party has also tried to maintain good relations with other Iranian organizations and parties. We have fulfilled our commitments and obligations in this regard to a very large extent, and we have also paid a very high price. This issue of separatism that the Islamic Republic raises, because the Islamic Republic and some of its supporters, even outside the country, always, when the people's struggles reach their peak. Regarding Kurdistan, we've had experience before. Whenever these widespread struggles and numerous protests against the regime occurred in various cities in Kurdistan, they always tried to say that the Kurdistan movement, the Democratic Party, and others are dependent on Israel, America, and here and there. This has been the policy of the Islamic Republic, to try and mislead public opinion inside Iran and make people focus more on a foreign enemy, because Mr. Khamenei, whenever he gives a speech, always uses the word enemy a lot. Therefore, the Kurdistan movement and the Kurdistan Democratic Party of Iran, as before, our endeavor is to find a way to achieve a result with all Iranian organizations and forces against the Islamic Republic regime, because a democratic future for Iran is in the interest of all Iranians, regardless of whether they are Kurd, Fars, Turk, Arab, Baluch, regardless of different religions. We can all govern Iran together and have a democratic Iran.
Thank you, Khalid Azizi, spokesperson for the Kurdistan Democratic Party of Iran, for joining us. Before we formally conclude this program, I wish to take this moment to read aloud once again the message that U.S. President Donald Trump recently posted on his social media platform Truth Social, just within the past few minutes of our time together. Given that he did not hold a press conference, Mr. Trump stated that his meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and a number of his other representatives has concluded. It was a very good meeting, and the excellent relationship between our two countries continues. Regarding Iran, Iran, he said no definitive outcome was reached, stressing negotiations will continue to determine whether an agreement can be reached or not. If such an agreement is possible, I informed the Prime Minister that this would be our preferred option. If it's not possible, then we'll have to see what the outcome will be. And with that, we come to the end of this program. You can watch this program a little later on Iran International's YouTube channel.